So I can tell you guys about like ClassOwl, how we sold the company. Do you think that'd be interesting?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I could always tell you other stories. Okay, cool. So I'm very like, I started programming when I was 12, I think. So I'm very just like, I like to think like a computer and like to think in like processes. So with the ClassOwl acquisition, I guess I can take you back to like before it happened, like the decision to actually do it. So like we had started this company our sophomore year. We had done a ton of things that were working, but like we had gotten to the point on the team where like we couldn't figure out how to scale the business. We couldn't figure out actually how to like make money from this product that we had built. And like we could have gone, like schools were offering us some money to use it, but it wasn't enough for us to build like a long-term sustainable business. So I think we had like 3 months of cash left, and the idea was like we were either going to like completely pivot and work on a totally new idea, or we were going to just try to sell the company. So basically the decision that we made was we were going to try to sell the company, and we felt like that was like better for our investors and better for us in terms of like the long term than trying to like go out and raise a bridge round and pivot the company. It would have been a total nightmare. So the first thing that we did was just like we asked people for advice. So like this was one of those moments where we were just like everything's okay now, but like I don't know, 4 months before this happened, like I was so down. Like I remember I had like a breakdown and like I was crying and stuff, and I thought that like everything was all over and we were gonna run out of money and go bankrupt and everything. So I was kind of at like the rock bottom, and at that point I just like I knew I had to go out and like reach out to all these people that I knew and just ask them for help. And I think after doing that, after like having that experience and like hitting rock bottom and going out and talking to all these people and being super frank with where we were in terms of like the company, that helped. I mean, so it sort of helped teach me that like people always want to help you. Like not a single person we went to and told them the like story of what was going on. Like not a single one turned us down, and they were all like very willing to help us. So I think I learned from that like everyone wanted to help us, and like ask for help very early on. Like ask for it early on and ask for it often. I went to like every investor, advisor, mentor, friend. I went to all these people and just like called them, had meetings, and I was very frank, very open. And some of these guys, they actually introduced me to other people that had been in my shoes. So I got introduced to, there's this guy I got introduced to at Facebook, who's like a very high up product manager, and he had also been in like kind of a similar situation with one of his companies. And then I think I also got introduced to a guy that's now pretty high up at Uber. And so I got like hour-long meetings with each of them, and they kind of like walked me through the process of like everything that they went through and everything that they learned. And that's what like basically that became the blueprint for my plan of execution. So I think the lesson for that is like a lot of the stuff that you're going to do, it'll be the first time you do it. You generally don't know how to do a lot of these things. I think as long as you have like a lot of smart people around you that you can go and you feel comfortable asking them for advice, like that's the number one most helpful thing that you can do, because that's like a huge shortcut to getting to where you want. So both of those guys, yeah, they basically built the blueprint for what we were going to do. So we came up with a strategy. We compiled the strategy, compiled everything that we learned from the people advising us, and we basically gave ourselves, we wanted to do this on a super tight timeline, because we knew that like if we didn't do it on a timeline, companies were just going to be like, okay, like we'll talk to you guys in a month or whatever. So we told every company we went to that like, I think it was June 15th is our final deadline. Like we need to know by this date. If you can't tell us by this date, we don't want to talk to you. And so that quickly weeded out all the companies that like weren't super interested and the ones that actually were. And the idea was like, first the team came together and we decided like where we wanted to work. So like we said only SF, Bay Area, and New York were the only 2 places that we wanted to live. And then we basically came up with like a list of every single company that we would ever want to work for. And once we did that, then we worked on getting intros to all the companies, trying to see if there was any exit opportunities available. And then after a bunch of different things, we would try to sell the company. So I think the lesson, I mean, I'd say like I was very surprised at like how much we were able to accomplish in 30 days. And I think if you can like bring your whole team together on projects, not necessarily just selling the company, but just like have everyone responsible for like certain parts of the project, you can get way more done than you think, as long as you have like a very tight deadline with very clear goals. And our goal was extremely clear. It was like, we're going to sell the company or not. So I think that definitely helped. The next one was the process. So the process that we ran was like get intros to as many companies as possible, see if they're interested in acquiring us, meet them for like the social fit. So we need to meet all the people that we would be potentially working with, and they would also meet us, our whole team. So I guess at the time there was 5 people that were in Romania on our team, and there were 4 people in the U.S. And so we took the Romanian team and actually like we found another company for them to go work for, because we talked to all these companies in the U.S. and they were saying, we want to talk to you guys like locally, but like we can't bring on a team that's like outsourced. It was just too hard for them to absorb. So we made a decision early on to like split the team off into 2. So it was just the 4 of us that I'm talking about in the Bay Area. So the lesson that I learned from the process part is like build sales funnels. So like I took a screenshot. This is like not this is not the actual one, but like this was like the idea of what we had. So we would put like a list of all the companies we were interested in, then the stage that we were at with them. I think we had stages 1 through 7 or something, and like -1 means it was a rejection. And in the final stage that we were at with them, something like that. So this was super helpful in just sort of like managing the whole process. I would highly recommend, yeah.
Companies there that they're not in the education field, where you just...
Yeah, we just put down like any company that we ever, yeah. It was just, so for us it was like, there was 2 things. So there was the opportunity to sell both the assets and the team, which is like a full-on acquisition. What we decided to do early on was just to do the acqui-hire, which is the company acquires our team. So once you go do acqui-hire, then you can open it up to any company. Whereas acquisition would have only been education companies that would have been interested. So the other thing that we did actually, which actually literally closes today, is we've sold the assets off to another company that's based in Texas. So we actually did 2 separate transactions when we were selling this thing. The first one that we did was like we sold the team, and that was really like time intensive, or like there was like a deadline for that because the headcount just costs so much money. You need to like sell that off first, but then the assets have a shelf life of like 12 to 18 months. So you can sell those off later once the team is sold.
You were 4?
There's 4 of us, yeah. Yep. So then there was just like the execution. So that was the 30 days of like actually doing this. So so I would say like the strategy and process were the 2 most important things. Once we got those 2 things nailed down, it was just purely like, okay, we got to get intros to like as many companies as possible. We have to get them into the funnel. We have to see who's interested, and then we just like refine the funnel quickly, like as quickly as possible. And it basically turned out we had 42 companies that were in our funnel. We tried to get intros to all of them. We actually got intros to all of them. 4 of them never replied to us. 26 ended after the initial contact, so we would talk to them on the phone or in person, and they would be like you guys are cool, but like we don't have any room for you on our team right now. 5 ended after the social fit meeting, meaning like either they didn't like us or we didn't like them. 4 ended after technical interviews, meaning that like we went through the interview, we went through the real interview process, and it didn't, either we didn't like it or they didn't like it. And then 3 offers were made, and then we finally accepted one for Branch Metrics in Palo Alto. So I was at Branch for 6 months, and I was an evangelist there, basically like working on working there after the acquisition happened. But then I left and I joined Jive because I want to come back to San Francisco and be like much earlier stage in a company. So I would say the lesson was like our strategy, our process, and our sales funnel made this a very manageable process. I think this would have otherwise been like, it was very extremely stressful going through this because there are so many moving pieces and so many like variables that we couldn't control for. But I think having that stuff, like the early conversations with advisors and these like really smart people, really helped us in like actually the execution side of things. And I also, so after I wrote this blog post, I've had like a ton of companies that are like contacting me just asking for advice and stuff. So like if you guys ever go through something similar, like I'm always happy to like chat and see if I can help. I'd say like the main takeaway is first time doing this, ask for advice early and often. That's just in general startup advice. No one's gonna get mad at you for not knowing something when you're an entrepreneur. Give yourself aggressive deadlines. Sales funnels are great. And then execution becomes clear and manageable when strategy and process are set.